and welcome back to my channel. And in today's video, we will continue from where we left off in the last video. So in the last video, we added the bottom navigation, we added the icons and colors. So if you haven't watched the video, please watch that video first and then come back to this particular video. So in today's video, we are going to create the following page. This page, and I've taken the inspiration for the design from a screenshot that I took a few days back, which is this. So you can see there are some sections inside this particular screen itself, like followed categories, your live channel, channels recommended for you, and so on and so forth. So we will start the designs from the top and go to the bottom. So the first things first, you can see there is a top bar in this particular screen, and this top bar will be a constant component in all the other screens as well. Like the discover, browse and search screen will also have this top bar section. So let's create this particular component first. So what I have done is I have created a folder called components and I have added this top bar as the component inside it. So the top bar is basically a view which is acting as an app bar, and it is taking a style called styles.container, which is basically this, where we are just setting some of the styles for it, like width, padding, vertical, padding, horizontal, flex direction, justify content, background color, align items. All these things have been added. Then inside this, you can see there are few icons that we need to add few small components to. So for this particular icon, which is basically the profile icon, I have created another component called profile icon. You can create it as a different component, or you can directly write that component here itself, but I have created it as a different component, which is present again inside the components folder called profile icon. Here you can see it's simply just a view, which is circle in nature, having a border radius of 16, color as pink background, and justify content and align items are having the value of center. And the child of this view is basically the material community icon, which is having the icon of account outline and the color of text color and size of 22. That's it. Once you have created this particular profile icon component, you can use this inside the top bar. Then for the right section of the top bar, you can see there are three elements inside this. We have added a view which takes in the row container style, which is basically flex direction row and align item center. And it takes two material community icons, which is inbox and comment. And then another view, which is having the style of icon container, which you can see. It's basically flex direction, background color, padding, margin left, border radius, line items. You can see these values for this particular style. We are using it over here. And inside this, we are adding again a material community icon called radio tower, which is basically this, and a text called create. So with this view, we are basically creating this oval shaped background element, and inside that we're adding these two uh, items, which is basically radio tower icon and the text. So once you have written this entire thing, the top bar will be created, and then we are going to use this component inside the following page. So to reiterate, what we did here is we have created a separate component called top bar. We have added the required elements inside the top bar, the left section and the right section. And then we are going to use this top bar itself as a component and add it to the following page. Now coming to the following screen, we are going to create this particular screen. If you remember that in the last video, we were just returning the text called following, but right now we will actually create the screen. So to start with, what we need to keep in mind is that there are different sections to this particular screen, and that's how we can easy out the process of creating this entire screen. So there are different sections like followed categories, your live channel, channels recommended for you, continue watching, and your offline channel. So there are like 3-4 sections to it, but mostly the design for these sections are somewhat similar. So let's get started with this. So the first things first, we have added or we have a view that is wrapping the entire thing with the style of Lex1 so that it takes up the entire screen. Then what we need to do here is we need to add the top bar we have just created. We are adding the top bar like this. And then we are adding another view which takes the background color as colors.background. So because the entire screen is a shade of black, we are adding the text as the following text style and adding the text as following, which you can see the style is font size 30, colors, text color, and font weight as bold. So far so good. We have added the app bar, we have added the header, which is the following text. And the next thing, if you see the actual app is having is that it is scrollable. The header remains fixed, the app bar remains fixed, but the other content inside it is scrollable. So what I've done is I've added a scroll view, and then inside this we are taking in a view because scroll view can only take one child, and we're giving a padding of 80. And now inside this there are different sections as I talked about, right? So there is something called followed categories, and then there are different channel views, channel sections to it. So what I have done for this is that I have created few components regarding this. So for this section, I have created a separate component called following categories view, which is basically this section. So if and for this component is also present inside the components folder. If you open this, you can see what I have done here is that I am just taking a view, wrapping the entire thing, giving a margin of 24, I can top of 24, adding a text for followed categories, which is this, and which is having a style of title, which is you can see string, uh, having which is having a style of title, which is this colors.text color. So you can see styles.title, which is basically colors.text color, font size 20, font weight bold, padding horizontal 4, which is basically this. And then it takes like a horizontal scroll view. So I've added for now, as I said, we're not taking the data from somewhere. So what I've done is I've just hard coded two card components, but later on, if you all are interested in creating a full-fledged application with the data and all and so forth, which is getting fetched from somewhere or something like that, we have to modify these small things. So I've added a horizontal scroll view of style having a margin top of 16 and which intakes the children inside the scroll view. And for in this case, we are adding something called category card, which is also a component itself, which is basically this individual cards. You can see there is an image, there is a text, and then there is this views that is there on this particular category. So for creating this category card, we have to go to this particular file, which is also present inside this particular component section. And you can see what I have done here is I have wrapped the entire thing with view and giving it a margin right of 12. And I've taken an image with a dummy source from pixel.photos and styling it with height of 120 and width of 100. This Valorant text is having a style of card title, which is font size 16, font weight bold, and color, which is colors.text color. Now, inside this, we are having two more elements to it, which is this red circle and this text. For that, I'm adding the view with flex direction row, margin top of 4, align item center. And inside this, we are adding two elements, which is the view, which is the circle view, with 12, height 12, border radius 10, background color of red, and a text, which is having a color of secondary text color, font size 16, margin 4. For now, we have added just the dummy data. So once you have created this category card, we have to use this inside the following categories view like this. So if we had a real data, what we have done here is instead of directly writing or directly adding the category card, we would have taken the array of data and we would have mapped it to this particular component. Once you have added the following categories view, we'll move to the other sections. So in the other sections, there are the three sections, which is your live channels, channels recommended for you, continue watching. These three looks pretty much similar to each other with minor changes. So what I have done is I have created one single component for this called channels view, which takes in a prop of type, which is basically a live, recommended, or continue. And accordingly, we are modifying the UI. So for this, again, we have created a component inside the components folder called channels view. And inside this, you can see it takes the type as channel list type, which is basically an enum that I have created in the following screen called live, recommended, and continue. So the first section, which is your live channel, what we are doing is we are calling this channels view component, which we have created here. As you can see, it takes in the type as channel list type, and we are just declaring an empty variable called title. And according to the type that we are passing in the props, I am assigning a string, assigning a title to this particular variable. So if it is of type live, the title would be your live channels. If it is of type recommended, your title would be channels recommended for you. Otherwise, it would be continue watching. And after this, what I have done here is that I'm returning a view of with margin 24, which takes in the text, which is title, which is this. And inside this, we are just simply adding the live channel card, which is basically this particular card. Again, since we are just creating the UI for this, we are not actually populating a data by taking it from somewhere else. I have just added it like this for now, but in case there is a data, we need to map this views to the data. So yeah, so what I've done here is I've added the live channel card. So the live channel card is also a component. So as you can see, this is how the React Native works. React Native works. We are creating different components so that we can reuse it again and again at different places. In case there is a certain component which looks similar at two different places with minor changes, we can simply just pass on props and make those changes. Okay. So for the this, we have created a live channel card, which is this. And we can see it might look a bit tricky, but it is not that tricky. So for the live channel card, what we'd have to do is we are also passing a prop to this particular component, which is also is type channel is type, because in these three sections there is some minor changes, which is basically that we don't show views on the channels recommended for you. Okay, so we have to keep that into consideration that if it is of type recommended, we will not show this particular component. So having said that, what we have to do here is we are returning the view of flex direction row margin bottom 20, and it has two sections to it: the left section, which is the thumbnail, the right section, which is the details. So the left section is having an image, which is this, and we have to first of all check if the type is of live. If it is of not recommended, then only we will show this views. And so that was what we are doing here. We are just checking if the props type is not equal to recommended, and then we are passing this particular view. So this view is basically for this, which is basically a row which is having two elements. The left is a basic red circle, which is this, and a text of 4.1K. So as you can see, I've added inline styles at many places, but it is just how I created it at the moment. And I've also created separate styles to it. But in the link in the description, we will find the structured code for this. This is just to give you a brief idea on how to approach this sort of designs. Okay. So moving on to for the right section, you can see this is what it is referring to the right section, which is having all the details to it. The first is the icon, the channel icon, and the channel name. So the channel icon is again this red component, but here it should be actually an image. So if there is an actual data where we are having an image for the channel, we would display the image over here. Then the text, which is basically the channel text. Moving to the next section, which is basically the title of the video. For this, we're adding a text of color text color, the channel, the video category, and the language tag, which is this. It's having some padding, some border radius, some background color, and align cell, which is having a value of flex start. Once we have created this component, we have to use this inside the channels view. You can see we have added like three cards to it, but if there is an actual data, we would have just simply mapped the component to the data that we had. So there are, if they would have 10 live channels, we would have simply just mapped the 10 channels to the singular component by passing the required data to it. Okay. So once we have done this, the channels view component is done with. We'll just simply use this in the following screen. As you can see, we are calling it three times: live, recommended, and continue. So live, recommended, and continue. And the last section is the your offline channel section. So for this also, I have added a separate component called offline channel list view, which is basically this bottom section having a title of your offline channels, which is titles.title. And then again, here we are not having any data, so we have just added three static cards to it. So these cards are also separate components called offline channel list card. If you open up this up, you will see it's basically a view which is having an image on the left hand side, which is circular in nature, which is circular in shape, and the right side is having two texts, a title and subtitle. So the card title is basically a channel's name. For right now, I'm added Sinatra as the channel name, and the subtitle is basically the number of recently uploaded videos, which is this. Once we have created this offline channel list card, we are simply just creating three different search cards for now, and then we are just simply using this offline channel list view inside the following screen. So that is how you can approach this design of for this particular following screen. So all the structured code for this particular screen will be there in the description. Please check out my GitHub if you want to get the code for this. So that will be it for this particular video. We'll move to the next screen in the next video. Thank you for watching. If you have stayed till the end, please do subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you in the next one. Thank you.